Hello everyone. When we read in the Bible about a king, the king of Judah named Herod, during the time of the birth of Jesus, we sometimes know more about him or not, but what went through his mind when he heard that a new king was born in Bethlehem? What was the context of this information? It's hard to understand because you're not here in the Holy Land. This is why I'm here. I want to help you. Right next to Bethlehem, this king, Herod, built to himself an artificial mountain, and on top of it he had a palace. You want to see it? Let's have a look. We're going to turn the camera and see the remains of this amazing palace that King Herod built over here on top of Herodium. This palace had actually two parts, a fortress on top of an artificial mountain and a beautiful palace down there with a swimming pool and rooms to everyone. Down there you can see the remains of the swimming pool and the remains of the palace. But the artificial hill is what's so outstanding over here. But just a little bit to the west, you can see the fields where the shepherds used to shepherd their flocks, and the city of Bethlehem is right over here. All these houses that you see are basically suburbs of the city of Bethlehem of today. Jerusalem is north over here. This place, Herodium, is very, very worth visiting. You can really see here a lot of things that brings the first century BC and AD into life, the context. And the Bible can come to life when you see the rocks, when you see remains of a synagogue. Let me take you on a short tour over here. To understand how high is the hill, you have to climb the steps of the royal entrance. Just have a look at it, since you cannot climb. Down here you have the staircase leading up to the upper part, the fortress. We're going to see other parts next to here, but meanwhile the last part of the staircase we're going to walk together. There's a beautiful royal entrance over here with vaults and arches that the king, and later on it got renovated, and all the walls around me are basically part of this royal entrance. As we get higher in the staircase, we can see that parts of the stairs were also built on top of vaults and arches to bring them to the same level of the entrance. So when you come in, there is a welcoming room with beautiful frescoes. Still, the beautiful colors stayed over here and got renovated and reconstructed. You can see that the fortress, or the palace fortress, was built as a circle, and what went around was corridors with rooms. And you can see down here there were floors built by wood. This is all reconstructed, obviously. Down there they found a winery that Herod had for himself in his palace. When you enter to this beautiful palace, you can see some of the beautiful elements that were holding some of the roofs, these capitals that are left over here, and obviously some of the rooms. One of these rooms used to be a bathhouse, a spa. Here is the spa, or the remains of the spa. There is actually an original Roman dome, stones still standing in the air with the support of only stones holding them. So these were some of the rooms of the bathhouse. This place, Herodium, was taken by the rebels after Herod died and he was buried here. The rebels of what's called the Great Revolt, which started in the year 66 and led to destruction of Jerusalem in 70 and destruction of Masada of 73, And they take over this place and they live here, the rebels. And one of the things that they left for visitors today will be this room. This is, as you guessed, a synagogue. This is a first century synagogue where you can see the benches that people used to sit around and study and read the Torah. This was used also in what's called the Bar Kokhba revolt later in the 2nd century AD. When you come to this place, one of the most exciting things to do is to go through the underground system of tunnels that the rebels were hiding in them, but also it leads you to the water system of the palace and the fortress that brought water from pools and springs next to Bethlehem and Hebron. Here is the underground system. You can walk down and down and down into the bedrock. It's a very cool walk, shaded, cool air into the chalk rock. This is how it looks. More and more stairs down to the water reservoirs. Here we are in one of the water reservoirs that contained water, rainwater, or actually springs water that came from Bethlehem with aqueducts. It could contain water because it had plaster on the wall that was actually preventing from the water to go into the bedrock. This is one of two beautiful, amazing, big water reservoirs that enabled the life in the palace and over here at all. One of the most amazing sights in or part of the palace is the Royal Theatre, a little size theater that Herod built facing Jerusalem. Basically, we can see the top of Mount of Olives up until today over there in the horizon. This is Jerusalem, and this is a place that Herod built to himself and his guests. Behind me over here you can see the remains of the beautiful room that was decorated where he hosted his royal friends. And now it's closed, but when you'll come over here, there's a beautiful presentation and video. As we walk from here, we're going back to the royal entrance, and we can see one of the most famous findings they found over here is the tomb of Herod. Josephus Flavius, the historian, is telling us that Herod wanted to be buried and was buried in Herodium, and in 2007-8 the tomb was found by Professor Netzer, and obviously we only have the remains. So this is how the tomb used to look like. These are some of the remains. It had a bottom place, a base, square base, round shaped part, and this beautiful cone-shaped roof. This is how the fortress palace used to look like, with the royal entrance and the tomb next to it. Here is the royal entrance, and here is the tomb, the remains at least of the tomb. We have down there on the floor remains to where the sarcophagus used to be. The sarcophagus was found broken down to small pieces, probably because of the rebels who didn't really like King Herod, and they smashed his sarcophagus. This is where the end of one of the most famous figures lived in this land, the one who brought the Olympic Games to Caesarea, the one that is mentioned in the Bible with the birth of Jesus time. This is where he ended his life. And when you come over here, we can basically see this place and more just to understand the reality of how it looked like. You can see the wilderness, you can see Jerusalem and Bethlehem from here, from the tomb of Herod. Meanwhile, stay in touch. Hope to see you soon over here. Bye.